Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for wherever you're listening to us from. And today, I welcome you to the third day of this session. And today, we have with us Brett Salakas, who is an ambassador of education, and Dr. Christine Haskell, who is also an adjunct professor, Washington State University. Today, they will be discussing on rejecting silicon myth, AI as guide, not God in education. So, quickly, to our audience, if you'd like to ask a question, please use the comment at the Q&A session. And for any comments you have, please use the comment section. Thank you for this session and see you shortly. So, Mr. Brett and Dr. Christian, please go ahead with your presentation.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much. And already I just saw some people use their little emojis for some claps and some love hearts and things like that. It's all very important. Thank you very much for that. I know if you have a question for us that you'd like us to answer at the ending, we just got that prompt there to use the Q&A, but we're going to ask you a few questions live during this. We're going to have some interaction things, aren't we, Christine? We're going to have a little bit of fun. We've got a few polls and activities. So when we're doing that, just use the normal chat section and we can discuss what's in the chat. But if you've got a question for us, a deeper question that you'd like us to use at the ending, put that in the Q&A and then we can answer those big questions sort of at the ending. But throughout the session, we'll use the chat. So our conversation here, AI in education, savior or sidekick. I've been very polite, and you'll notice when you hear our accents that we come from different countries. Or where are we joining from? There you go. You're just about to beat me there, Christine. I'm sitting here in Australia. I was going to say Sydney, Australia, because I'm from Sydney, but I'm in a beautiful part of remote and regional Australia called Port Macquarie at the moment. We've got Athens, Greece joining us. G'day. And Christine, where are you from? Do you want to give the hint?
I'm in Seattle, Washington. I had to give myself a giant slap before getting on camera because it's almost midnight.
It's midnight where you are. It's about 6 o'clock at night where I am. And I'm going to, Chrysanthi, I'm going to guess that it's probably sometime early in the morning in beautiful Greece at the moment. So we're going to dive into a conversation. Christine and I, we really kicked off a bit of conversations about AI with respecting some of each other's work that we had been doing in this field. And we came across an article that Christine's going to deep dive, an article that was published in the New York Times that really challenged these gods or guides of AI and all this sort of stuff. We'll get into that. And that's really what sparked our conversation. And we got talking, is AI going to be a savior in education? Is it a sidekick in education? Is it going to be a helpful? Is it going to be a lead? All this sort of stuff. And that's what we're going to unpack today. But I'm going to show you something a little bit different to usual, something that we do quite often here in Australia. So if you use your phone, grab your phone for me, and if you can scan the QR code that's in the bottom corner there on your screen, if everyone can do that for me, and you'll see a little thing that says Enter VR. And that will take you to a 360-degree image of a place called Uluru, that big, beautiful rock that's right in the middle. And I'm doing this for two reasons. So I know when I first showed Christine this, she was amazed at all the colors and all these beautiful, iconic image of the centre of Australia. And I do this for a reason. In Australia, we have a tradition that we do an acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge all of our First Nations people, our Indigenous brothers and sisters, who are the original educators, the original inhabitants of the land that we meet. And I guess today I would like to acknowledge all of the First Nations educators from around the world, all of which we follow in those same footsteps. For many, many generations, they pass knowledge they pass wisdom and knowledge from generation to generation, and we walk as educators, modern educators, in those same footsteps, continuing to pass knowledge and wisdom from generation to generation. So in Australia, whenever we gather, we always start with an acknowledgement of country. And here, you can use this 360-degree image to get a little taste of Australia. And we do, like, my understanding of pedagogy is to enable learning experiences that were previously impossible. So here I'm able to use a little bit of tech to give you a little bit of a taste of Australia. And I think you'll all agree that it's a gorgeous image. So I'm going to hand back to Christine now. Christine, on the next slide, would you like to deep dive
Yeah.
how exactly we got started?
Yeah. How many people were hooked by the title of this? Just out of curiosity. And I do have to say, I love that app. It makes the land acknowledgement much less performative and much more educational. So thank you for that. But how many people were hooked by the title of this session?
Oh, we've got a few hearts popping up there. I saw that, Christine. We've got a few hearts. People like the title.
Brett was saying, this was inspired by a New York Times article, and I'll go ahead and share that link, in which Arthur Mensch from Mistral AI in France reflected that the US had a very God-centric view of generative AI, and around the same time, Amy Webb had just published her book on the Big Nine, which is a great resource, and I recommend that to all my grad students. And we've got a handout that we'll share at the end of the session that's got that as a resource. The Big Nine is how the biggest organizations are concentrating power and data to determine AI's future. So the truth is framing the AI debate as gods or guides or savior or sidekicks is a real oversimplification. And it's very tempting to kind of lean into that. It doesn't accurately represent the diverse range of approaches and philosophies within the US or global AI landscape. It's not a simple crossroad, but a rich, varied ecosystem. And each region and approach contributes uniquely to the global AI network. And are we at risk for tipping too far in either direction? Absolutely. And that's what we're going to discuss in this session. So today we're going to explore this diverse ecosystem and consider our role in shaping its future. And the next one is yours, Brett.
Yeah, thanks. It's worth noticing here too. You're going to see a lot of AI art that is peppered throughout our presentation, and perhaps to the really astute of you would have seen a little disclaimer on the very, very first slide that all of the AI art that we have used in this is actually being generated by Adobe Firefly. So I just want to be really open and transparent. I think that's very important that we do that when we are using AI, that there is that level of transparency between what's human created and what is AI created. I'm going to just post a little link in the chat now, but for those of you who are on your phones, you're able to use your QR codes to sort of scan in here as well. Christine mentioned that we began this conversation with that article in the New York Times, and we're going to sort of jump around the world and show a few different takes, because in that article it quite Christine actually was quite open and explicit about the difference of views between what was happening in the US and what was happening in the EU, particularly in France and whatnot. And so what I wanted to do here is actually give you a little taste of something that's just happened fairly recently in Australia. We've had a federal parliamentary report into AI in education, and it's come out with a whole bunch of different recommendations. And the actual parliamentary report, it's almost misleading because it doesn't sound like something that would come from Parliament. So it's called Study Buddy or Influencer, an inquiry into the generative artificial intelligence in the Australian education system. But it really unpacks. There was about 400 odd submissions. It's about a 100 sort of page report, but it unpacks what some of the risks are, what some of the concerns are, what are the potential benefits, and what are the things we need to be wary of. How influential is AI going to be for a force for good or a force for a concern? But it really leans into that concept of study buddy, a very Australiana sort of term, a bit of a buddy, a bit of a pal, a bit of a mate. How can we make sure that AI is our friend in the classroom, helping us learn, rather than like inverted commas replacing teachers or trying to devalue the human element of that classroom environment? So they've actually put out 28 different recommendations. And I guess in this conversation, for us to be able to have a bit of a take, and we're going to get a little bit deeper, just wanted to give you a little taste of some of the thinking that's happening, even from a parliamentary level in Australia. Christine, back to you.
And so AI is developing unevenly across the globe, and there are many different philosophies, goals, and approaches. The AI race is reshaping our global landscape. And with the investments in AI startups reaching 91.5 billion in 2022, we're seeing a technological arms race that's not just about innovation, but about cultural and economic dominance. Not all players are following the same playbook. And I'll share the link that I got this report from, or this image from, just so that you have it if you're interested. But there's a poll there. Brett, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I'm just doing it my phone out right now to have a little squeeze there too. So if you actually are able to get your QR code and get your phone out again, like we said, we're having a little bit of a interactive session here. So if you scan your QR code there on your phone, it will take you to a little bit of a poll, and it'll ask you the question that's down there: what comes to mind when you think of AI development in different parts of the world? So obviously, here we've got quite a diverse group. We've got some people from Nigeria, people from Greece, people from the US, people from Australia. We're looking at a pretty different space. So we're coming together as educators. Scan this and it will ask you the question, what would you like? And I can see there's already one in, and the first word that's in there is the future. So if you keep doing that, and that will actually generate a little bit of a word cloud for us to gather on all the things that people are thinking and saying and whatnot. So we'll have a little bit of a moment for you just to do there and participate and take part in that. Why that's being populated, Christine? Please share the link. There you go. For those people who can't scan, I can make that happen. Hold on one second. Here we go. Link in there now. I'm wondering, Christine, whilst I'm just thinking on my feet, whilst people are filling that, I wonder if we can continue with our talk, and maybe we jump back to see the results of that. Just wondering, so we don't have too much lag in here.
What was the question?
Yeah, maybe we should.
Just continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. So
we've got ethics disparity. I'll tell you now, we've got ethics disparity. They're the words that are starting to pop up.
Yeah, I've got the demos that I was going to go through, but I gotta stop sharing.
Jump on that.
I'm going to stop sharing the presentation and move to that. So let me share the rest of my screen here. In not trusting tech demos, I went ahead and did the prompts ahead of time, because technology never works the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to move over to another screen really quickly. And let's see if this works. Let me, one second, it's the wrong screen. Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go. Technology is not cooperating. Hold on one second. It went to, I've lost my mouse. Oh. One second.
All right. That's right. You always gotta love when this sort of stuff happens. But if only there was some sort of AI tool that could drive our presentation. I must admit, earlier, whilst you're doing that, earlier in the year, I was fortunate enough to dart off to Bet London, And whilst I was in London, you tell me when you're ready, Christine.
Yeah, sorry
Whilst I
about that.
was in, when I was in London, I did get to see Microsoft doing a demonstration of Copilot, and of all of the, I guess, of all of the interactions with all the different booths and whatnot. The Microsoft booth was probably about 6 or 7 people deep constantly. They would have had, 100, 200 people around their booth at almost every time. They had a gigantic screen. And what were they doing? They were getting Copilot to actually live create various slide decks for presentations and whatnot. So I know I jokingly said to you, if only we had an AI that could drive our presentation here, but
Oh God,
literally at
I wish.
London, we
Yeah.
had so many demonstrations of Copilot actually generating live various presentations.
Yeah,
Uh,
sometimes I wish that could happen.
yeah. How are
So
you
some
at the
insulin,
moment?
yeah,
Are we
I'm
still
back.
having a
So
glitch?
nope, I'm back. So can you see my screen with the prompt? Are you able to see this chat GBT resolve?
ChatGPT loading right now. Got a thumbs up from the crowd as well. Yep, there we go. We've
Okay,
got it.
all right.
We've got you.
So some in Silicon Valley and beyond envision AI with transformative potential, and companies like OpenAI and Anthropic, and I'm going to do a demo on both, are pursuing ambitious goals, including artificial generative intelligence. And so I've got two prompts on both of these, and I want you to see them resolved differently. And I went ahead and ran them because I just didn't trust it, and so I went ahead and just did it. And one is a relatively simple prompt here. It says, describe a scenario where a school district uses AI to predict student dropout rates and include the data it analyzes and its intended purpose. And so you can see here in a school district focus on supporting students at risk of dropping out, an AI-powered predictive system is implemented to help educators identify and intervene early with those students who may be at risk. And it talks about the factors that it uses, so performance and behavioral data and socioeconomic factors, and you can see the list. And then it provides the intended purpose. And so the school district implements an AI system to predict which students are at risk of dropping out, and it determines the high risk students. And so while it's intended to improve graduation rates, this system raises ethical concerns. It might reinforce existing biases against certain demographic groups, potentially stigmatize flag students, and overlook unique personal circumstances that the AI can't capture. The quick data-driven decisions of AI clash with the complex, nuanced reality of each student's life, highlighting the need for careful consideration of AI's role in education. So it's powerful in terms of its ability to think quickly, gather data quickly, but it raises really important questions in terms of how we balance ambition with responsibility. Um, are there any sort of immediate reactions or thoughts to that kind of simple prompt? All right, well, I'll move on to a more complex prompt. And then, so across the US, Europe, and beyond, many are focused on practical industry specific AI applications, and they're not chasing AGI, but rather solving immediate problems like, do my laundry, but not my art and poetry. And it might be taking over both. And so the second demonstration, we want to see how AI is applied to solve real world problems. And so the prompt here is a little bit more complex. And so I'm going to go through the the way I constructed this one. It says, describe a complex urban planning challenge that an AI system could help address through dialogue and reasoning. The AI should ask for more clarification, consider multiple stakeholder perspectives, and offer nuanced solution. Focus on how AI engages in the process rather than just providing a quick answer. Keep the scenario concise but detailed enough to demonstrate the AI's reasoning capabilities. And so with this one here, AI engages in a dialogue, more specifically in the reasoning, asking for clarification, considering multiple perspectives before offering a nuanced solution. So there's different goals, different outcomes, and both approaches contribute to the AI landscape. And so in this one, you'll see, there's more thoughtful questions. It's getting you to think differently. You're providing more context. It's soliciting more subjectivity from you, and in that, it's constructing a more complicated prompt. Are there any questions with this in terms of the difference between how it's playing a part in the ethical decision making? Are you able to see it, or are the words too small? Brett, can
Okay,
you
yeah,
see it?
maybe, yeah, just getting a little message of maybe we can make it a bit, it's a bit too small, maybe we can make it a bit larger, but Chrysanthi is saying she can see, but I'm also getting another message of seeing if you can make it a little bit bigger.
Okay. I'm not sure where to go. Here it is. How's that?
Yeah, there you go. I reckon if Chrysanthi was seeing it when it was small, I reckon they can definitely see it now.
Okay, good. All right. I did the same prompt in ChatGPT and the smaller one here, the smaller prompt, and got a completely different set of data. So different tools provide different services. Claude is more of a brainstorming tool. ChatGPT is more of a general purpose assistant. So they do they're different. They provide different kinds of output. So Claude would probably be
I
a
tell you what
better.
can I say what was a little bit funny? I saw a friend of mine who's actually an AI specialist, and I'm not going to out him because he does work for a tech firm. He had a lot of the AI tools he asked them about the quality of each other and what they were like. So we asked Copilot to tell a little bit about Gemini and
Yeah.
and get Claude to say a little bit about Copilot and OpenAI. And it was very interesting to see how the different AIs have been trained to interpret what the other AIs are. There was one of them in particular. I won't put myself to be liable, but one of them basically was just called out for being a marketing tool for the company that owned it.
Well, and that's actually happening where companies are starting to feed AI tools with their marketing materials, so that the answers that when people like me or you are using these tools for general questions like to understand how a data stack works, that you're going to get marketing speak from like Salesforce instead of general academic and general agnostic information, and the AI wouldn't know, and you would need to know how to challenge the output. And so that's a real problem. And because AI's run out of material, and it's feeding itself old, kind of regurgitated
Yeah,
information,
self-perpetuating.
that's also a problem. So that's a real concern, that it's starting to feed on marketing information, and like it's like pulp. And so that's a huge problem. Does anyone here use any of these tools yet, or is this new information, or do people know this already? And it's okay either way. My feelings won't be hurt.
Use
You
them
use them
all.
all. Use them all. Okay.
See, the Greeks are on top of it, you see. Ellen's got some of them, but the Greeks use
New
it all, apparently.
information. Bad at prompting. Okay. Yay.
Yeah. That's what you do. Play to your fan base. See, I'm complimenting Greece and I'm getting the A. You see how you do that? Ellen, unfortunately, I don't know where you come from, Miss Thorne. Hong Kong. Hong Kong's a lovely place as well. All the people in Hong Kong are fantastic educators.
So I think the big lesson here is to experiment with different tools and to always remember to challenge the output. I'll put there's a study in here about reasoning. There's a reminder to not become reliant on the information in the tools. I think that's the most important thing. There's a really good paper here for folks that may be interested about ethical studies. And I think reliance on these tools is to always remember to use them as the assistant that they're meant to be. If you become reliant on them, I think there's a huge danger that you'll atrophy. Your own skills will atrophy, and that's the real red flag that I think everyone's worried about. That the answers, if you read these answers, they sound smart, they sound confident, they sound better than maybe something someone may come up with themselves. Over time, you become, if this is your domain, you become better at challenging the material and honing it. And if you stop doing that, you stop adding value, and that's when you become replaceable. And it's that value add that's critical, to always be extending the output that comes into that comes out of the prompt. So I'm going to go back to the presentation if I can find it again. Did you get the poll results, or should we continue moving
Look, yeah,
forward?
I think we should continue if we don't mind. Yeah, jump on
Okay.
in. It's a quick. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, it's still showing. Okay, good. So I'm going to go to.
Just might need to make it full screen, I think.
Yeah. Well, I need to stop. I need to get back here.
That's all right.
I need
And
to
also,
go
while you're
back.
doing that, yesterday actually I went out to a school in New South Wales. So Australia is an interesting educational landscape because whilst we have a relatively small population, only about 25 million people, our states are very, very large. You know, everyone always says, Texas is so big, and I don't think Texas is. I think Texas would just be about our second or third smallest state if it was an Australian state. Like it's small compared to Australian states, right? So Australian states are very large, and our education systems, rather being done in jurisdictions or local areas, our jurisdictions are the entire state. So New South Wales Department of Education is actually the largest educational jurisdiction in the world, the single largest authority of any rollout of students. So we've got just over 1 million students using like the one curriculum, the one jurisdiction of everyone reporting on the same thing, and they are just releasing or have just released New South Wales or NSW EduChat. And EduChat is a tool that they've been in test mode, so in 3 weeks' time, and actually is going live across the entire state. So every teacher in the entire state, so about 300,000 teachers, will get access to this. And then next year, because in the Southern Hemisphere, obviously we have a calendar year for our school year. So at the start of next year, students will get it. There, the students don't get answers when they use the AI tool, but it's like a Socrative sort of methodology. So if the students ask about a topic, if they're researching volcanoes or whatnot, the AI will question them back and challenge them and ask them some questions. So it's an interesting little nuance of the different sorts of ways that AI tools could be built for that education landscape. And it's exactly what you were just saying there, Christine. Like, do we want this overarching AI god that de-skills us and devalues our knowledge, or do we want the AI that is going to be our supportive, inverted commas, co-pilot, rather than flying the plane, actually working with us to make us more effective on that? And I think that's the best thing that Microsoft ever did was use that term co-pilot. I know you and I had a conversation about this very, very early in our friendship, because that's exactly what we want AI to be doing. We don't want AI to be the pilot. Humans need to be the pilot. We need to be in command, flying the ship. But we would like it to be a co-pilot. And just very quickly, Chrysanthi, to answer your question, no, unfortunately, it's not going to be a global release. That is a New South Wales based system.
Ellen, can I ask how you use it? Because I agree with you, the writing style is incredibly sterile, but there are ways that you can manipulate it. How are you currently using it? if she chooses to answer.
Yeah.
Why
Why don't we go while we wait for her to answer?
Well, I was just gonna tie that up as to say you can give it a role and deal with that in your prompt. But we can, if we have time at the end, we can talk about that. So across the globe, researchers, ethicists, and policymakers are working to ensure that AI development aligns with human values and societal needs. And there's a growing global consensus on the needs for responsible AI, from the EU AI Act to the US AI Bill of Rights, and I'm not sure how long it's going to last, and China's AI governance principles to the OECD AI principles. And I'll put some links in there of current ones that I'm aware of, and if you're interested in those. And then we can move on to the next one. Brett.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do here is for the next actually 2 bits, I'm just going to show you 2 ways that AI is impacting some of our work, where that godlike status of AI is actually having I guess, a challenging impact on the human industry. So here in Australia, I'm just paste this little article here. So here we have some Aboriginal Indigenous artists, and those people who have a keen eye will be able to see that I've got some Aboriginal Indigenous art at the back of my screen at the moment as my backdrop, and you'll be able to see up the top here. I've got an artist called Melissa Barton. Now, particularly Indigenous art, but all artists, spend years earning their craft, and each brushstroke, each symbol, each thing has a very, very unique purpose, a reason, a thinking. Art conveys messaging and purpose, particularly Indigenous art that can have so much cultural connection and cultural understanding that we need to pay respect to. I do a lot of my work in New Zealand, and obviously Maori art is deeply enriched with this sort of stuff. One of the I guess, impact of AI, generative AI artwork, is if AI is learning to replicate various symbols, it is producing en masse stylized Indigenous art, stylized art that looks at first glance to be of a First Nation, or in this case, Indigenous, Aboriginal, Indigenous Australian art. Yet what that is actually doing is having a direct impact on the livelihoods of the traditional Aboriginal artists, and of course the authenticity, the cultural authenticity that sort of lies within. If we move to the next slide, I've got a message here in a similar way. This article here that you can see that's linked in the QR code here was an article about the impact of AI journalism, particularly AI journalism in India, and the significant rise of articles being written in Indian newspapers that are actually written now by AI journalists, not human journalists. So you mentioned something a little. Oh, thank you, Christine. You mentioned something a little bit earlier before about the internet sort of starting to feed its own content and almost train itself on itself, and all that sort of that cycle. I wonder if anyone in the audience here has anyone heard of the dead internet theory? The dead internet theory. So this is a term that was actually raised way back in the 90s, but it was a bit under the radar for quite some time. But in recent time has really taken off. The dead internet theory is supposes that as AI develops, most content on the internet is actually not human driven, human created, but actually AI created. So it's a little bit what Christine was talking about, in that we are entering this sort of world where a lot of content is actually created by AI, and AI trains itself on the internet. So then it's training itself on content that it itself has created. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling cycle where humans have a increasingly small impact on the content and feel and vibe of the information that's actually out there. And this article actually talks about that impact, particularly having I guess an impact on the journalism within India. It is a bit scary, isn't it, Ellen? So it's really starting to I guess be something that we need to be aware of. And I guess this is why we need to be able to have conversations exactly like we're doing here today. We need to all be able to commit, and I'm using that word deliberately. You'll be able to understand towards the ending of our presentation, but we want to commit to actually being more aware, being, I guess, informed about the way AI is impacting our world, our learning, our the way we live. Because the more aware of it we are, the more prepared we are to really be able to nut out what is right for us. Back to you, Christine.
So this one is the tool slide. So these tools represent different stakeholder roles. And so how will we shape this future? Each of us has a role to play. And so think about, using the chat, which role are you? If you were to pick a tool, what action would you take? So if you were a policymaker, how would you balance innovation with ethical considerations? Or if you were a developer, how would you ensure your AI respects human values? How would you prepare the next generation for AI augmented world as an educator? How would you leverage AI ethically to drive progress as a business leader? What tool would you pick up and how would you leverage it?
Yeah, so we're looking at, do you see yourself as policymakers? Do you see yourself as a developer, as an educator, as a business leader? What sort of role do you have in this delicate balance of AI, human interaction and interface, and all this sort of stuff? What is it that you are? I'm going to hazard a guess, Christine, that most of the people in our audience today are probably going to be like you and I, are actually probably going to be educators. So we've got our policymaker. I don't know how many global world leaders and whatnot, but we all are policymakers within our schools, within our universities, within our jurisdictions as well, and I guess even within our classrooms too. So engaged citizens, that's a big one too. So I think these are things that we really need to be aware of, because it is, when you talk about what role we have, we individually have a role to play. We can't complain about AI. Ellen mentioned in the chat earlier, it's terrifying, all this sort of stuff, and it can be terrifying, but it's only terrifying if we are passive and let it happen to us. We need to be active, aware of our role, aware of our place, and make sure we're advocating for what we want AI to be. Christine, you mentioned that phrase that's become a little bit viral at the moment. I want AI to do my laundry and not AI to do my art and poetry and all that sort of stuff. I don't want AI that can do art for me. I don't want AI that can do laundry. I want AI that can vacuum my floor and do my and do my laundry. I want to do the art. I want to do the poetry. I want to do the fun, creative stuff. I don't want to do all the cool stuff.
I think it's important. That's why I put tools in here. I think it's important to use it as the tool that it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Right. And not see it as a replacement of us. Right. That it needs to be put in its place, and it's a tool.
Yeah.
And that we need to be constantly thinking about what value we're adding to this tool. And that question alone puts it in its place. And
yeah, sorry, you just made me think of a conversation I had actually pre-COVID with a gentleman called Toby Walsh, who works at the University of New South Wales, and I know you and I have had a conversation, because many years ago I got given a copy of his book Android Dreams, and he's really the person who started me on my AI term, and I saw him actually speaking at Google, like probably around 2018. I had read his book. I was a bit of a fanboy. I remember taking the book along to get it signed, but the debate actually was, should we be polite to AI? Do we say please and thank you and all that sort of stuff? And he, interestingly, like, I'm a primary school teacher by trade, so I like to use manners all the time, and I like my children using manners. But he was like, no, we don't want to give it human status. We don't want it to think. We don't want to put it on equal status as us, because it needs to make sure. We need to make sure we're aware that it is serving us and not equal to us. So it's an interesting debate, though. I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily the correct answer, But it's a debate and it's a conversation worth having. So is it a God? Is it
Yeah.
above us? Is it equal to us? Or is it a system that we then use?
I don't know. I think that's an interesting stance to take, because I think
Yeah.
it has the it sort of opens is that unleashing our baser selves to what side of us is that showing to kind of. There's some sci-fi shows that actually take that to the extreme. I forget which one it is, but I've seen it where we treat robots. um I forget which one it is. I don't know if it's Black Mirror or which one, but there is one that has a robot uh that is assigned to a family, and there's that actually happens. And
Mm.
I actually disagree with making them in our image. I think it's wrong to anthropomorphize them at all. To have a face, to all of that stuff,
Mm.
because then we do that, giving them human characteristics and all of that stuff. I think is it is a tool. It is and it does tasks, and um, we should think about we should think about it in terms of those transactions. But I to um, I have issues with that
Yeah,
part
it's
of it.
curious though, and I've got to say, I'm agreeing. I'm seeing your point, and I'm agreeing here with what Georgina and Chrysanthia are saying. Like, it's certainly interesting. Like, it's worth a discussion. And I know I apologize to you actually, because we didn't actually talk about perhaps bringing these
Yeah,
up in our conversation. But it
yeah.
was just as you were talking about it, I was like, wow, you know what? That actually reminds me of that debate. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it gives a bit of a take out of it. Why don't we jump to
Well,
the next one? Because I know you've got a few
yeah,
things to share too.
yeah. Well, where are we on time? Are we good on time?
I think we're starting to run out.
Oh, are we? Oh, okay. Well, then, as we conclude our exploration with AI and education, I want to invite you to be part of something a little larger. We opened the presentation with viewing the AI landscape as a rich and varied ecosystem. And now we see it's not about choosing a single path, but navigating this complex terrain together. And the future of AI will be shaped by various approaches, from ambitious visions to practical applications, all supported by a foundation of ethical considerations and global collaboration. Global student of AI rights and the Global Student in AI Rights Pledge isn't just a social media tag, it's the start of a collective action toward a movement ensuring we embrace AI's potential while protecting what matters most: our students, our cultures, and our human connections. The QR code on the screen will take you to a full pledge text and signing platform. And right now it's in the early stages and relatively simple. Joining us in shaping an educational future that's both innovative and deeply human. And you can share the commitment using the ICTE pledge. So thank you so much for your attention, and we look forward to building this future together. And then, Brett.
Yeah, yeah. Look, yeah, I guess I just wanted to re-emphasize a little bit of what you're saying. Actually, this was a funny image to create. I had been attempting to play. I was telling Christine about this. I had been attempting to make use Firefly to create images that looked a lot like us as the two presenters. A guy with no hair and shaved head, and a female that had a female that had curly dark hair, and I couldn't quite get it right, and I had ended up with a whole truckload of various images. But I went for this one because it looked pretty fantastic, I thought. And I'm just about to get the link as well, but just to re-emphasize, yeah, take this pledge. What we're going to do, we'll reach out. Everyone who does take the pledge and signs up, I think we've just got a couple of little questions in there: your name, email, all that sort of stuff, or your LinkedIn. Who wants to make sure that you are that active voice, rather than that scary thing where we're letting those tech bros make these AI gods and that dictate to us? Let's be on the front foot. Let's be proactive. Let's take this pledge. Let's read thought pieces about AI. Let's learn some new AI tools, and let's make sure that we post our thoughts and share our thinkings. And as Christine said, let's make sure that we use those appropriate hashtags as well. And I know as this community grows, and my hat goes off to Dr. Christine here, because I've joined her on this mission. She's been leading this for quite some time. So thanks so much, Christine, for letting me to take a small part in the presentation today, because I know you've done a tremendous body of work on this field for quite some time now, and I know that you and I have been talking about it for a while. But I know you're very passionate about building a community that is actually pledging to do good, to be knowledgeable, to be informed, and share that information. So again, here on this final slide, we've got that pledge link. If you do want to hear a little bit more about Christine, you can see her obviously on her LinkedIn. She's got a fantastic book. I've got her book on my bookshelf. Actually, it's on my kitchen table at the moment. But I do have her book. And if you want to reach out and find a little bit more from Christine, or if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or perhaps even read my book as well, I've heard it's pretty good. You're more than welcome to. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. And Christine, any last words you want to? I just had a little look at the Q&A, but
I'm part of Brett's fan club. He's got an amazing podcast. He's an amazing person, and does incredible work in Australia. You should look him up. And yes, no to the tech bros. Totally agree. And this is the beginning, I think, of a really interesting movement. And we need to hold the companies accountable. And we've got some resources in the handout that I just shared in the link. So definitely look that up. And our contact information is in the handout. Our LinkedIn is in the handout. So look us up and get in touch. And we'll hang out as long as you will for any questions.
Yeah. Just having a look at the Q&A now, but I think it looks like we've got a few really nice comments there in the chat as well. So thank you to those people who really enjoyed our session.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah. Just give you a moment in case there is a question coming in. Excellent presentation. I agree, and thanks so much again, Christine. Just having a look there. I don't think we've got any questions in the Q&A. We've got lots of love and little emojis popping up, but yeah, I think that's
no. But I think that point that you brought up about the not being polite to the robots is an interesting one, and that would that could be an interesting talk in and of itself.
Do you know what? Actually, as I said that, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting at a conference to actually have an old-fashioned debate, like get a few educators up on stage and have an old school debate, moderated debate about what people think?
Yeah.
That could be curious. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I might try and put a session like that together.
Well, we did a debate here. We did a debate at ICTU. That's how I met. That's what I did with Maria last year.
Oh, there you go. What was the topic there?
Is AI good for education or bad? And I had to take the good side of it's great. Everything about it's great. And I didn't agree with half of it. But I do think it's a fabulous way
Ellen
to flesh out.
thought it was great too. It's funny that you said it was great, because Ella just said great, capital or in all caps.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's great.
Hey, just above that comment, there was a comment there about some tips. I'll give you my favorite tip about prompting. I had a friend of mine mention this to me, and I now do this almost all the time. I always seem to now when I'm setting something up, and whatever the context of the I guess the need for me to use AI, I'll explain what it is, why it is that I want it, and the context, and then I give it some of its instructions, and then I say to it, feel free to ask me some questions that can help you provide a better, more nuanced result. And what it will often do then, it'll then pump out 5 or 6 questions where it will ask for specifics about whatever it is that I'm trying to do, and then I can be a little bit more, I guess, bespoke with my answer, and and it creates something a little bit more right on point, closer to what it. So I've done the best I could at explaining it, but then it will let it know that you wanted to ask questions, and it will tell you where it thinks the gaps are, and then you can be very specific about those potential gaps, and you'll get a response that's actually closer to, I guess, the output that you're looking for. That's my hot tip.
One of my tips is to you really need to load up a prompt, and like, I want to do X and it needs to include this, and this. And and often you'll get the output and you're like, well, I wanted this and I actually wanted this in it too, and this. And when you
Mm.
get the answer that you really want, then I ask, what would have been the ideal prompt to get this response? And then it gives a very well formatted prompt. And that's the prompt that you would have wanted to run initially. And in doing that, it actually teaches you how to format an ideal prompt, how to kind of load up those initial prompts, and then you actually, I have like a little prompt library. So it's done. It helps me with
Pardon me.
starting off blogs. It helps me kind of get articles started. It helps me search for certain citations. It helps me like with do images, um, things like that. Think like repetitive like muscle tasks. I call them muscle tasks, like things that I have to do repeatedly, and it saves time. You're on mute.
I put myself on mute so you didn't have to listen to my coughing.
Oh,
But yeah, I think that's so sorry, and then I forgot to take myself off. Um, I might remind everybody, have a look in this chat, because the handout that Christine put together has just so many valuable tips, like almost like a short synopsis of the presentation that we've given today, and also some of our favorite recommended reads as well on this sort of topic, on these sorts of issues. So you might want to do that, but I think it's pretty much time for us to sign off.
yeah, I feel like we got bonus time or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
those
like we've
were
gone for a little
books.
while. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
those were, yeah. Are we getting cut off or something?
I don't know, but I feel like we've gone through everything.
Yeah, but those are books that I recommend to my grad students, like the Amy Webb book and the Glitch book. The Glitch book is about a lot of bias that gets programmed into AI. The Amy Webb book is about the big nine companies that concentrate the concentrated power. Um, I mean, there's a lot. Um, but I don't know. Does anyone have any kind of last minute questions or?
I don't know. I'm just happy to hear that Ellen said that my book's been on her to read list.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
thank you, Ellen. So ping me on when if you get it, ping me on LinkedIn and tell me what you thought of it. Actually, I will say I do have a new book coming out in the near future. I've been meaning to wrap up, sitting like about 90% done for a little bit too long, and it surprise surprise is all about AI.
Oh, and I've got one coming out. I've got one coming out soon. I'll be doing a cover reveal in the next week or so about data skills and human skills bridging. So stay tuned.
I gotta go because I can feel another coughing fit coming on, and I don't want to cough in front of everybody.
Where do you get the time? I don't know. Like, well, I'm up at midnight talking to you, so I guess it must be it must be late nights. Oh, he left. Did he leave? I wouldn't want to leave. I can't tell if they're gonna cut this off. Like, I don't know how this works. I guess I don't. I feel like I should stay until they cut us off. Do we leave? How does it work? Oh, um, I typically leave until the students are gone. Goodbye. All right, take care.
Hello, Dr. Christine.
Hey, you come and got me.
Hello. Thank you for the amazing presentation. And I
Yeah.
believe our audience enjoyed the amazing interactions and insightful presentation you offered. So it's quite amazing and intriguing how things just took a dramatic turn, that all of a sudden we begin to interact with robotic elements on assignments and things relating to education. But
Right.
it's quite intriguing to note that AI has really transformed the educational space. So with this, I will likely, I will kindly say thank you for attending the sessions, and to our amazing audience, thank you for engaging and your support in this presentation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it. I didn't want to leave. I wasn't sure who was getting us. So is it over,
Def-
or should I go?
Definitely, we will have another session by next year. I hope you will be attending.
Yes, definitely. Would love to. All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Right. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.